What's up guys, it's Darius, and today I'm bringing you guys sort of a different video. This isn't really kind of just going to be, I guess, a discussion slash, not even rant video, but I don't know, I guess I'm just like speaking off the top of my head. But I wanted to talk about Final Fantasy 15 now. Obviously, a couple days ago, I beat the game. Obviously, people have beaten it before me, but I said at the end of the Let's Play that I kind of wanted to do a different sort of video afterwards, basically talking about what I thought of the game. So, obviously, we'd been waiting for this game for 10 years. As you guys may not have known, some of you that are newer to the game or the series, this game was actually announced about 10 years ago, 2006, on the PS3. It was named Final Fantasy Versus 13, and it was supposed to be basically a part of the whole, I guess, a trilogy of games. It was supposed to be a part of a trilogy of games: Final Fantasy 13, Final Fantasy Type 0, and then obviously this game, Versus 13. But for some reason, development issues happened, and basically the game was not even really delayed, but I guess the release of the game was pushed back a lot. The only actual delay for the game happened 2 months ago, when they said that it was actually going to be in September, but it kind of got delayed 2 months for some patch issues, and then obviously those issues kind of came out to be, for lack of better words, bullshit, just because there still was a day one patch, and then this patch is coming afterwards. But that's besides the point. There's been a lot of development issues for this game, so I guess you could say that people who've been waiting a long time for this game, some of us had very big expectations for the game, while others have kind of just tried to forget about it until it just came out. I was in between. I would say that me personally, between me actually really finding out about the game, I would say I found out about 15 the beginning of 2007. I really wasn't that much into Final Fantasy that much. I'd played one before, but that was only because a family member forced me to play a Final Fantasy before, and I'd played maybe a couple afterwards, but I really wasn't into the series like that. It wasn't until I actually tried 13, as you guys know, some of my subscribers would know, 13 actually got me back into Final Fantasy just because it was so different, and I'm one of the, I guess, minorities that actually do like 13. It just was really different, and for some reason it grabbed me. I know for a lot of other people it didn't, but 13 really was what grabbed me. And then I did more research on 13, as you would do with any game you're really interested in, and I found out that 15 was actually connected to it, or Versus 13. I really didn't get that connection at the time, even though it was called Versus 13. I thought maybe there might be something to it, but me being younger, I kind of just whatever about it. I was just like, oh, okay, whatever. Actually, when I saw Versus 13, I didn't even know that 13 was a thing. I'd actually found out that 13 was a thing separately when I first played it, and then I remembered Versus 13. I was like, oh, okay, these things are the same. But yeah, that basically just goes to show how far back this game was in, basically even in concept form or development. So now that it's basically out, I think the majority of people think that it's at the very least a great game. A game is never going to be perfect, and honestly, I'm not of the mindset where some people will think, oh, because a game has taken so long to develop, for every year it hasn't come out, it needs to have this X amount of hours to it, or X amount of content in it. But for me, this game, it definitely seems, I don't want to say it seems like it's been in development for a 10-year cycle, because it hasn't been. I don't know if any of you guys know this for sure, but they basically, to a certain extent, scrapped the original idea of Versus 13 and started over again, basically, in almost every aspect of the game. The gameplay, the story, the tone. I'm not even sure if all of the music came except for Somnus from Versus 13 when they first showed it off. So yeah, this game went through a complete overhaul, and they've been working on the game since, you could probably make the case, 2012 to maybe now. I remember them, obviously they re-showed it at Sony's press conference in 2013. I still remember that day. But obviously they'd been going through some things development-wise. I would even say 2011 because I remember Nomura posting something. It was like literally a drawing of Noctis on a napkin during his lunch break, and he posted it somewhere and was basically saying you'll hear more about Versus 13, as it was known as at the time, very soon. So you could say for about 5 years now, this version of Versus 13 or 15 has been in development. And I will say that for that amount of time, there's definitely more than I expected to do. So I will just basically go over my thoughts for each point in this game, and then I guess give you my standing as to where it sits in the Final Fantasies and even games that I enjoyed in the past, and basically my memorable life of gaming. So yeah, let's get into it. So basically, I'll start off with the story. The story it's really, really good. I love the whole thing where Noctis, the protagonist, is forced into a certain situation. He basically has to make the best of it. I'll just get the gripes out of the way now. The only thing I really wish they did was I really do wish they actually put Kingsglaive in gameplay form. Like, I wish the events of Kingsglaive were actually in the game. That would have been really cool to actually see. I know the only player you really play as is Noctis, and they really wanted that, but it would have still been cool even if they had some sort of like, maybe they just even had you play as Nyx for a little bit. That would have been super cool. Like, imagine you boot up the game and like you see the events maybe of what happens to Noctis when he's a child, and that's a cutscene, and then you switch to what the events of what's going on in Kingsglaive, and for some reason you're playing as Nyx, or maybe you're playing as Nyx but he's hooded and you don't know that's Nyx. You don't know. Maybe you think it's Noctis. Maybe you think it's Noctis in some sort of uniform training for something. But then you take it off and it's like Nyx. It's like, who is this guy? And then the events of Kingsglaive. Like, it would have been cool if that was like a prologue to what happens. And then for some reason, I don't know, they transition to chapter 1 and they say like a couple days earlier or something like that, or a week earlier, and that it basically explains what happens. And I don't know how they would exactly structure it, but I just think something like that would have been cool if they did it in that way. So I really do think that the events of Kingsglaive should have been in 15. It's not a complete setback, but I do think it would have pushed the story even further, and it would have actually put some more hours into the story, which is what some people kind of have complaints about, is the length of the story. I didn't really have complaints about the length. I took my time with the game, but I also didn't stall. Every now and then when a side quest would come up, I would just do it, but for the most part, when I was trying to beat the story, I would say it took me about probably 15 to 20 hours. I wanted it to be as long as 13, but I can't really complain about that because of how open the game is. And I'll get into why I really can't complain about it later. But in terms of story, the story definitely affected me emotionally. And that's a really good barometer for how I think about games and how good the story has been, how good the game's been. Earlier on, the game isn't really that it really isn't that, I wouldn't say not good, but it's not grabbing. Like, it's nothing special that happens in the first part of the game that's like, oh yeah, the story's gonna be great. It's kind of a slow burn, and I don't mind that as long as there's a good payoff. And there really is in this game. I would say it starts revving up about the time you get to Altissia, which I can't remember exactly what chapter that is. I want to say like 6 or 7 or something like that. I might be off, but you guys know what chapter that is. And we all know exactly what happens in that chapter, and from then on, that's where the emotions and the real like the severity of what's going on is shown in the game, and you're like, okay, this is actually a really serious story, and it's like really sad in most parts and really exciting in most parts, and like there's a whole bunch of mind fucks in some parts, and a lot of stuff happens where you get confused. But even if you're just thinking about it for a little bit, or if you just like look up some theories, it's pretty easy to explain. There's probably like one thing where you would absolutely probably have to look it up if you really didn't pay attention. But yeah, toward the end, it just gets crazy. I love how The one thing that's really weird about this game, especially toward the end, is chapter 13. It's technically the second to last chapter in the game. The 15th chapter is actually you just being able to go back in the game and, you know, play through the side quests and do extra stuff. But 13 is where you're basically forced, Noctis is forced to come to terms with the position he's in. He's the new king now, he has the ring, he has to use it, all of that stuff. And tonally, story-wise, that chapter is awesome. Like, that's the exact feel I get from what's happening in that trailer. And it's basically not even just Noctis, but everyone as well coming together, coming to terms as to what needs to be done, what's happening in the position they're in right now. And it's awesome. But gameplay wise, that chapter is very, I could definitely say that it was cumbersome. It was annoying at times as well, especially because for a good majority of that chapter you're having to backtrack, and there's also a limited amount of resources loaned to you at that moment because of certain story aspects, as well as you being by yourself. But yeah, I would say that's the only time in the game where I was annoyed. And that also could have been from a personal mistake for myself. I wouldn't say severely underleveled toward the end of the game, but I was pretty underleveled to a point where, you know, regular monsters were a couple levels higher than me, and they were absolutely destroying me. So I really had to like play and like focus and whatnot. I don't know if you guys actually saw my Let's Plays, but like later on, you could tell there was a lot of parts in it where I just wasn't talking because I had to actually focus. But yeah, me personally, I do think that there's some things weird with that chapter in terms of gameplay, but tonally it's awesome. And then from then on, after I would say the second half of that chapter onward, it's just amazing. Like in terms of story and gameplay, everything that happens toward the end of that chapter and afterwards is just it's crazy. I love it. And like again, the gameplay actually comes into play to really give you a feel of what happens in chapter 14 as well. It's total chaos, and like everything that's going on in that chapter is just absolutely crazy. So I would definitely say toward the end, especially what happens to the characters, and even what happens after the first set of cutscenes where they show two specific characters, and then obviously the real logo for I call it the real logo. The real logo for 15 is shown, and like that was an oh moment. Like my mind was blown. Like we didn't really know for sure who was the person on the actual logo, and then it shows another person who's supposed to be next to that person, and then it makes total sense. So that was definitely one of the moments where I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. And then after I realized what it was, I was like really sad because it confirmed some of my thoughts and other people's thoughts. There's no way in hell that what you thought happened at the end of the game isn't what happened. I know a lot of people want it to be something else just because it was so, you know, emotional, but that's exactly what happened. So story-wise, that's where I'm at with this game. It's affected me emotionally, and that's a very good standing for me. When something affects me emotionally, I'm always going to remember it, and that's a good barometer for how good that game was in terms of story. So yeah, I guess that's it for the story. In terms of gameplay, I'll try to keep it sweet and short. The gameplay in terms of combat is very fun, it's very diverse, it's also deep, and anyone who says that this game is easy to play in terms of combat, you are going to die, and you have no idea what you're talking about. Like, just because you hold the circle button does not mean that that's all you need to do for attacking. There's so much to do, and even if that's all you do, you're missing out on, like, even if you were able to do that, which you're not, you're missing out on what makes the game so fun. There's so many different ways to actually go about playing this game. There's so much crap in this game to do in terms of fighting things and going about, you know, completing missions. So the combat is deep, it's fun, and that's really all that matters. It's way more than I expected it to be, as well as the side missions. Like, there's so many side missions. There's so much crap to do. There's so many weapons, so many different outfits you can actually get, and they're adding more stuff in DLC. Like, we're gonna keep getting stuff for this game, and it's so good that this game has so much to do because we've waited so long. And I know for a fact if we didn't have this much stuff, we would have been a little disappointed that we didn't get a little bit more gameplay, or a little bit more info about the characters, and that's coming. So and I really can't wait for multiplayer, because I can't wait to experience how good this game is with other people. So that's gonna be really fun. I guess the next thing I wanted to talk about is how good the game looks. Me personally, I'm not an absolute graphics, how they say, graphics whore. If a game doesn't absolutely look the best it can be, I'm not going to complain. But this game definitely looks good. Like, when I first popped it in, and it shows the cutscenes and how big the game is. Like, that's what's really getting to me, how big this damn game is. There's like 3 different separate maps for how big the game is. It's bigger than I think anyone thought it would be. So the fact that it's this big is just absolutely crazy to me. And then the fact that the game looks this good with how big the game is. I guess you can make the case and say that there is some like texture pop in, and then there's like, you can see stuff load in. But to be honest, I really don't notice it unless you like really look for it. And at the end of the day, like I said, because this game is so big and there's so much to do, I don't even mind it. Like, I honestly don't. But with me, I have a PS4 Pro, so this month the game is actually getting 4K support, and it's gonna get a 60 FPS, like sort of, I guess, additional add-on and stuff, so it's gonna run at 1080p 60 frames. I definitely cannot wait to show you guys that. Unfortunately, I don't think my capture card can capture in 4K, so I'm not gonna be able to show you guys the 4K resolution, but I'll definitely be able to show you guys the 60 FPS. Actually, I think they said 40 to 50, and then they're actually trying to get it to run at 60. So you'll see a higher frame rate version of this game in terms of gameplay from me. So yeah, that's gonna happen. I don't think I'm really missing anything else from this game. So I guess I just want to give you guys my thoughts and where it ranks for me in terms of games I really love. Because I'm very much a person that looks back on games. I'm not one person to always go back and play a game just because I love it so much, but with a few exceptions like Kingdom Hearts and stuff like that. But this game is definitely a game I'm going to mention to everyone when they ask, what's a good game or something that's affected you emotionally, like in general, because this game really did affect me emotionally. Like, days afterwards, I'm still thinking about it. Like, it got me to the point where, like, the clothes you wear at the end of the game, I don't even have them equipped to the characters. Like, I put back on the first clothes that you wear when you start up the game, just because I don't even want to think about what happened, because I liked the characters so much, and I just want to be able to give them, I guess I want their story to be more fleshed out, and what they experienced to be more fleshed out before I think about what happens. I kind of want their story to be a little bit more explorative, be a little bit more happy, and them enjoy their time in that state that they were before the events of the end of 15. So that's how much it affected me emotionally. In terms of gameplay, I'm still playing it days afterwards. I'm going to platinum it. I'm thinking about doing every single thing in the game, getting every single weapon, all of that stuff, just because it's so fun. It wouldn't even be a hassle for me. Like, I like doing this. It's fun to do. So it's not like a chore for me to do it. It's like I want to do it. So in terms of that, and then also like the performance and the graphics of the game, it's going to improve on top of what it already looks like, which is already good. So for me, this game stands at, I don't know for sure if it's my favorite Final Fantasy right now. I think I may need some more time to think about it, but it's definitely top 2 or 3. It's no doubt one of the best games I've played in a long time. The last game that really affected me like this was, I want to say, Life is Strange, and then before that, The Last of Us. That's how good this game was. Like, those games are extraordinary. Like, they're so good, and it's up there with that. And I just wanted to say, like, that's, I don't know if you guys remember, Hajime Tabata said that this game was, in terms of story, was inspired by The Last of Us. The Last of Us was an inspiration for the, I guess, the newer version of this story. So yeah, like, he definitely executed it, because that's, I felt a similar level of emotions and, you know, connection to the characters after playing it. So I guess that's my thoughts. I will say, like I said again, it's definitely top 3 games in the series that I've played. It's definitely in my top 10, top 5, like, favorite games of all time. Like, it really just is. Like, it, I don't know for sure where it stands in top 5. I know for a fact it's in top 10 though. So that's basically my thoughts on 15, guys. I couldn't do this right away, just because for me, in order to say that, or in order to say everything about this game, I absolutely needed to take time off. I couldn't just say it right afterwards, because the emotions and the feelings of finishing the game and having a 10-year wait for this was so fresh that it might have been a little bit skewed. But I've taken some time off. I played other games just to see how I would feel about the game afterwards, and I had submitted, you know, feelings about the game, and those submitted feelings are what I talked about in this video. So let me know what you guys think about 15 and how it stacks up to the other games in the franchise, and also how it stacks up with other games that you have played in the past. Do you agree with me on certain things? Do you disagree with me? And yeah, just let me know what you guys thought about all that stuff down in the comment section. But if you enjoyed my take on this game, please leave a like, please share with other people who might enjoy, and please subscribe for more 15 and Kingdom Hearts videos coming in the future, and I will see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.